Hello, I'm Steph from iDriver Classic, and today we are at one of the best events in the classic car calendar. It is, of course, the Morris Minor Owner Club National Rally 2025. Now, I've been doing videos on this since 2019 when I first started the channel. It still remains one of my favourite things in the calendar, and I've been coming personally since 2010. It is such a great weekend, and this year is one of the very best that we've been going to. Not only is the weather glorious, so we're going to be seeing lots and lots of sunshine, but the calendar has brought out so many people as well. We have over 600 cars and over 1,000 people here this weekend, which is rather marvellous to say. There hasn't been a Morris Minor made since the 1970s. The club's alive and well, the cars are still very much loved, and there are some fantastic cars on this rally field. In this video today, I don't know what we're going to see, but we're going to be seeing lots of Morris Minors, and I'm going to try and show you some of the other stuff that's here as well, because it's not just a lineup of lots of cars. There are the people, there's the evening events, then there's everything in between, including a rather fabulous auto jumble. So let's go and see what we find, and I'll show you any of my bargains that I get along the way. Right, come on, let's go and see the auto jumble.
Now, you know what? This, for me, is one of the big highlights every year. And this year, I think, is one of the best years since, I don't know when, probably since one of my first national rallies, because the amount of spares that were out this year was unbelievable. Now, I don't know if it's because you had to pre-book, I don't know if it's because the weather was good, or people just feel a bit more G'd up after last year when it felt, if I'm honest, a little bit flat, but this year knocked it out the park. We are back on top with the National Rally Auto Jumble, and my goodness, did I find some absolute gems this year. Now, for those of you that are in the know, you'll know that I actually have two Morris Minors now, because obviously one wasn't enough. So I've got my saloon, Nancy, that in fact, I'm going to tell you a slight side note. The very first journey that I ever made in Nancy was to the 2012 National Rally, and she hadn't been driven in over 25 years, and she got an MOT on it, and I was like, right, okay, time to go. And I was late for the National Rally already because things, and I had to MOT her, and so I thought, right, I'm not even going to clean this car, I'm just going to get in it. And I remember arriving to the 2012 National Rally with my car full of cobwebs, with dust all over the car, and all I cared about was just getting the car there. Needless to say, she made it faultlessly, just as she did this year. And you know who else came? The Convertible. This was our last hurrah in the old gearbox. By the end of the National Rally weekend, goodness me, that gearbox death rattle was unbelievable. But anyway, coming back to the auto jumble, I had loads of bits to find for the Convertible, and one of the big things for me that I did actually find was an interior. Now, I had been speaking to a lovely man on Instagram, and he had an interior, but it had a few faults in it. And so it wasn't really for me, because I wanted something that was quite perfect, because the rest of the car is quite perfect. So if you are after an interior set in light blue for a two-door Morris Minor, comment in the comment section below, and I'll give you his Instagram handle, because I have got his permission to do that. But anyway, coming back to this video, oh wow, did I get some bargains. So I got my new old stock beam deflectors for travel on the continent, because as we all know, I love a good trip to France. What else did I get? I got my brand new seats, which cost me £120. I got a brand new old stock carpet set made in England. So look guys, it's the good stuff, the good well-fitting carpet set for £40, brand new in the bag. And when I saw that made in England sticker on it, I just could not snatch it up fast enough, and the man was so nice. Had £50 on it, and I said, look, I've only got 40 quid left, will you take it? And he said yes, of course, and he was ever so nice. And so if you're watching this, thank you ever so much. Can't wait to get that in the car, except I'm going to do a bit of a swapsy, because I've got a modern carpet set in Nancy, which in my opinion doesn't fit right, and I'm out in it all the time. So I'm going to put the new old stock carpet set into Nancy, and I'm going to put the new carpet set into the Convertible. So I'm going to do a bit of a swapsy round, but hey ho, I like Nancy to look her very best. Now, there was bits for everything. There were bits that were being sold by the club spares van, Brian, right through to people clearing out garages and traders. So if you're coming next year, make sure you bring as much cash as you can spare. Now remember, it's not all old parts, because there's also the old cars as well. And we have a quite cracking selection of Morris Minors. Now, I filmed this on the Saturday, so if you came on the Sunday, you'll know that there was a bit more order to it, and they started ordering them by 2 doors, 4 doors, Travellers, Convertibles, and so on and so on. However, on the Saturday, it was a little bit more mixed, and I prefer to film it a little bit more mixed because you get a bit more variety when you film up. Now, I know that people will say, oh, these are just car shows, it's just cars in a field. But I'm going to counteract that and tell you that rallies and car shows are what you make of them. And if you sit behind your car with a miserable face on in a deck chair, you're going to have no fun. For me, the magic is in talking to people and looking at their cars. So without further ado, let's meet our first person.
Goodness me. Did you expect to see this today? This is a dual control, so it's twin steer Morris Minor. Now, I assumed incorrectly that this was something that somebody had modified themselves. So I was like, right, I'm going to go and find someone to explain this all to me. And I ended up talking to John. Now, John, what is the story behind this car?
Good afternoon. Well, it appears sometime in the late 1960s, the government decided, or the driving standards said, that the level of driving skills for raw learners was getting extremely low, and people were going up pavements, up curbs. So they thought of an idea to make some prototypes so they could initially have a few lessons learning how to steer on the right side of the road and not go up pavements. This is the only one that we've been able to find. There should be 20 of them all told, but this is the only one that we know that has survived.
Wow, and what's the story behind it? Where did you find it? What condition was it in?
Well, it was almost being scrapped when a friend of mine wanted a Morris Minor saloon. We was looking around and we found this one. It was in almost a scrapyard, ready to be broken up, and we had a look over it and found various fittings that shouldn't have been there. So we started to delve a little bit deeper, and we found about the twin steer on it. A lot of the parts had already been robbed by other people, but there is certain parts of it that are still there, and I suppose if you had the plans, you could put it back together again. But I don't know if it would be allowed on today's health and safety.
So you've got 2 steering wheels inside.
Yes.
Is it currently twin steer, or what? Tell me about what's going on.
The important part, the mechanism that located the second steering wheel to the steering assembly was robbed. Somebody had already taken all that off. Why, I don't know. Whether it was the actual government departments that did it, or whether it was just in the scrapyard and people thought, we'll have some of that. But they'd already gone. So we're not quite sure, but from what we can work out, it was a series of levers and pulleys and bevel gears with a lever that you could disconnect and engage both steering wheels. That's how we found out, or we assume, that it should have worked.
Now, the one thing I will say is here, and I'll insert for clarification on what John is saying, is that I have a Ministry of Health car myself, which was a disability car. And what would happen is when they were taken out of service, is they would go off to auction, but before they went to auction, is they would have all those hand controls stripped out. So John may have a point here. So they might have been stripped out by the government before the vehicle was then resold again. So it is quite an interesting concept. Have you been down to the goodness me, what's it called? The British, the Museum
Heritage?
at Gaydon, yes, and had a look at the records.
Yes. They've got nothing at all in there. We tried to find out in the various government departments about the history of it, and we can only assume, again, that where it went from paper copies and paper records, where it was all put on computer, because it was nullified because of health and safety, that they didn't even bother putting the paper records onto computer, and they were just shredded. That's all we can do. That's all we can find out so far, unless there's somebody out there that can help us out more.
If somebody would like to get in contact with you, what would be the best way to go about it? Would it be to contact you through your branch, or?
No, the best way to do it really is through our garage. My good friend has got a garage, MOT station and workshops in a place called Findon, Northampton. It's Coty Cars.
Can you spell that for us, please?
COTTEE. Coty Cars.
Perfect. So that is Charlie Oscar Tango Tango Echo Echo Cars, and you can find them on Google. If I've been able to, I'll have popped a link in the description box below so you can get in touch. I think it'd be really useful to link up anybody that knows how to do these.
It would help. It would really help if we could find out some more of its history and the missing 19 as well. We don't know where they are, if they are even still on the road.
Well, stranger things have happened, so hopefully you'll be able to be reunited between this year and next. And if we catch you next year and you've been able to find anything, you must grab us and tell us what's going on.
That's agreed, yes, certainly. Will do.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for bringing the car to the National Rally. It's always a pleasure to see something different, and I hope you have a great weekend.
Thank you very much.
Looking round all the cars, I absolutely love the fact that so many people that you talk to are still dailying or regularly using these cars. And that's something I would say, because quite a lot of people watch my videos and then they'll say to me, Steph, can you use these regularly? How often would you use it? Or even worse, there's a horrible rumour that will go around that you can only use them on back roads or they won't go above 40 miles per hour. Look, I have done 4,000 miles, actually more than that now, in my Morris Minor since May the 22nd, and at the time of filming this video it's only, well, at the time of editing this video it's only early July. And you know how many problems I've had? I've had a brand new coil go on me. That's it. And so therefore I strongly believe that you can use these cars every day, or certainly very regularly. You can use them on motorways, you can use them on busy roads, you can use them as commuter cars. They are one of the most versatile classics. So if you've been thinking about buying a Morris Minor, please just do it.
I was walking across, looking at the Travellers, and Phil's Traveller caught my eye because this is one of the cleanest Travellers I've ever seen. I think I've eaten off plates dirtier than this car. Phil, tell us about this car.
So my dad bought it in 2008. Fortunately, he only had it a year, and then I inherited it from him in 2009, and then now try and keep it in the way that he would want to keep it, as a memory to him, really. It was his favourite car out of all the ones he'd owned in his life, so...
Brilliant. Now, I noticed on there that it said it had been sympathetically restored. When was that and what did that involve?
So the previous owner restored it for his wife back in 2005. She was going to use it as an everyday car, but I think she soon decided that she didn't want to use it as an everyday car. So we were lucky enough to buy it from him. And then since that time I've sort of improved it. He never really restored it to the condition it's in now, but I tried to, I try and keep it, and have improved it gradually over the years since I've had it.
And what modifications have you done?
So it's got a disc brake conversion. That's really the modification I've done, but it's also now got an anti-roll bar, alternator conversion, halogen headlights, things like that are kind of safety related. I don't want to take it too far from original if I can help it.
I like that. That's really encouraging. Now, a lot of people, this is honestly my favourite hill to die on, a lot of people talk about how uncomfortable the original seats are. But you're out there doing several thousands of miles a year. How are you getting on? Because you've just got the standard seats.
Yeah, they're fine, really. I mean, I've repacked them since I've had them, so they've had new foams and things like that, and diaphragms on the bottom. But yeah, they probably after an hour I need to get out and stretch my legs. But apart from that, it's fine. We find them okay, no problem.
And where's the furthest you've gone?
I remember going to the National at Nebworth. That was, I can't remember when that was, but and we've been, up to the NEC with it. It was on the Owners Club stand around about 2015, I think. So I'm never really kind of worried about driving it distance. It's been totally reliable. and yeah, we just enjoy it now. You know, and if a show takes our fancy, we'll go.
Brilliant. Now, I must obviously talk about the wood on a Traveller. A lot of people don't realise, if they have never been near a Morris Minor before, that the wood on a Morris Traveller is structural. It used to be, many moons ago, it would have been looked at on an MOT when someone would have MOT'd a Traveller. Your wood is in exceptional condition. How do you keep on top of it?
So I usually just put Danish oil on it, maybe 2 to 3 times a year. It's quite easy. I mean, you've got to be a little bit careful because it gets a bit sticky. But other than that, I just treat it with Danish oil and just try and look after it as best I can, and not let it get too wet.
Brilliant. And then we've been asking people today, what tips would you give to somebody that's considering Morris Minor ownership?
First of all, I'd say go for it, obviously. Try and find the best car you can within your budget. Sometimes the top looks okay, but underneath they're not quite as good. So always check underneath. You can always replace the top side pretty easily, but obviously the costs are, going to be incurred if you need to have welding or repairs done underneath. Mechanically, again, simple to work on. You don't need a specialist tool set to look after them. You just kind of do what you've got in your garage, and it's very, very, very easy and very cheap as well.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Phil. We wish you lots of fun at the rally today. It's a little bit cooler than yesterday, so hopefully you won't be burning up.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Now I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, Steph, this looks amazing. I want to come next year. Do you know where it is? And the answer is no, I do not yet. However, the best way to find out about it, of course, is to join the Morris Minor Owner Club. Now, you can join whether you own a Morris Minor yet or not. So if you're looking for one, I would strongly advise joining the club and also joining your local branch. But we're going to talk about branches later on in the video, because you might be wondering what on earth that entails, especially if you've never owned a classic car before. Now, coming back to the cars in question, you'll see an enormous lineup of different cars here. You'll see lowlights, you'll see the later cars, you'll see specialist models, you'll see convertibles. And one of the great things about this event is, and that you don't always find at club events, is that there really is no snobbery. And I will say this because I was speaking to people that wouldn't come because they were worried their car was too tatty. Look, the first year I turned up with Nancy, she had a drain pipe for a bumper and she was covered in cobwebs. And I was made as welcome as I was this year with a perfectly shiny car. So definitely need to be here. Well, I just spotted Quinn's lovely two-door saloon. Now, Quinn, how long have you had this car?
I've had it since 2021, so for a few years now.
And is it your first classic car?
Yes, it is, yes. I wanted a classic car that was easy to work on and was easy to drive. So yeah, and I've also got an MG Midget as well that I've had about a year.
Ah, so the bugs worked on you?
Yeah, I'm wanting to add to my collection, but everyone keeps saying, no, you can't have any more because you can only drive one at a time. But I've got the bug, so I'm going to start collecting more, I think.
I think that's great. I've got, as some of you know, I've got too many cars. I've got about 6-ish, kind of, but there's another one as well. It's all very complicated and horrendous. I would say a good number to stop at is probably about 4. But then once you go over 4, I guess it's like when you buy cats. Once you go over about 3, you just keep going.
Yeah.
So what is your plan for you and Doris this year?
Well, just to keep going to more shows. I belong to the Coventry and Warwickshire branch, so they do amazing shows as well and runs and things. So just to keep doing that really and coming to more shows like this.
And as somebody who was a first-time classic car owner relatively recently, so within the last 5 years, how have you found learning maintenance and all the bits in between?
Well, I have a very patient partner who gets under the car and has taught me how to grease nipples and the trunnions, exactly. So yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. Yeah, at school. I was first in class for the theory on motor mechanics, but when it came to the practical, I didn't want to get any oil under my nails. So it's a learning curve.
You could be a workshop manager with that talent.
Well, exactly. So.
Now, the one thing I'm going to leave you with is, well, last question is, if you had to give a bit of advice to somebody watching at home who was thinking about buying their first classic car and was a little bit nervous because they're not a mechanic or all the rest of it, what would you say to them?
Well, for me, it was buying a classic car from somebody who knew what they were talking about. So I bought my car from an expert who left me feeling confident that I was driving something away that I could look after and wouldn't break down. But yeah, no matter whether it's a wreck or it's, a concourse, just go for it because you'll have so much fun.
Brilliant advice. Well, thank you very much. Let's go and see who else we can spot on the rally field.
Now, there's been a lot of chit-chat lately around, shall we pay to go to a show? Should we not pay to go to a show? Personally, I would never expect to go to a show and not put some money in somebody's pot. Because, not to be boring, but you've got lots of things to cover off, like toilets, insurance, public liability and all that nonsense. That's before you've even got into the fact that you've got things like marquee hire, equipment, consumables and all the rest of it. So for us to go to this year, 2025, I think it cost £17 across 2 days. So that covered our entry for 2 days to take part in all the club activities, a few of which I'm going to show you within this video, to get into the auto jumble and all the rest of it. And quite frankly, I thought for 2 days where somebody entertains me and gives me a lineup of fun things that are going on, I don't think that's that bad. Not when a cinema ticket nowadays costs nearly £10 and that's over in 2 hours. This, you get a full 2 days and the money goes back to a club you love. So it's all win-win really.
Well, it's not every day that you start off a story like this. So I was talking to Ellie and her mum and I was like, oh, how long have you had this in the family? And Ellie was nearly born in this van. So that probably makes you one of the earliest owners. Ellie, how long has this been in your family?
Well, I'm 37 now, and so obviously since before then. So my dad's had it since 1982, so he restored it pretty much from near scrap. So when he first had it, it was blue, and then obviously originally it was a post office van, so he's done it all up to have it sort of brought back to its original state as a post office van. So it's got the Royal Mail logos on the side, and all the stuff on the inside is all original, so the grill where they used to keep all the post and everything as well. So yeah, but after the near birth story, it's what my dad used to take me to school in. So at one point the front was red, the back was blue, it had a green door and a yellow door, but everyone at school used to love it. So yeah, lots of fond memories. And then last year I got married and it was our wedding car as well for the wedding. So yeah, it was a really special day.
That was so lovely. And so you're really into Morris Minor as well. Have you got one yourself?
No, unfortunately not, because we live in Bristol, so they've got the clean air zone now. So I work in the city centre. So yeah, a bit harder to kind of have a classic car these days. But yeah, you never know what will happen with this one. So this is Reenie. She's called Reenie because of the registration. So yeah, but definitely like a long-standing family member.
I did walk over and really tragically go, oh look, it's a Manchester reg. So it's actually quite far away from home.
Yeah, so my dad's from Sheffield. I was born in Sheffield as well, and then all of my dad's side of the family are from up that way. So yeah, but has travelled now down south. So yeah.
You've been on some adventures. So have you guys been overseas or any holidays?
So I haven't personally, but my dad did the John O'Groats to Land's End drive in it. So that took them 19 hours to go all the way. So yeah, he's definitely had quite a lot of adventures in it over the years.
It is an absolutely exceptional van, and I love when you come to these rallies and you meet people and you meet their whole families, because a car, as we say in many videos, is never just a car. And so for anybody who's thinking about getting into Morris Minor ownership, what would you say?
Do it. Yeah, I mean the whole community vibe is really nice as well. Obviously people coming out today, it's not just for the older community either, like it's important for us to kind of preserve the heritage of these vehicles and their history. And if you walk around today, sort of reading on the front of all the cars, like their stories, and people just love talking about them. And yeah, like you say, it's not just a vehicle, it's not just transport, it's the whole journey and the story of the vehicles as well.
Ellie, thank you so much for showing the family van, and I really hope that you get your own one day.
Yeah, well, you never know. Hope to inherit this one as well. So yeah.
To be fair, I would too, it's clean. Right, let's go to who else we can find.
If you are watching this as well and you're thinking, shall I bring the family? Shall I bring my dog? And all the bits in between. Yes and yes again. This is one of the great things about these particular rallies that the Morris Minor Owner Club host, is that you can bring your kids. There is a kids entertainer. So I'm sorry I didn't film him. He was a magician or something. He was making balloon animals, doing card tricks, and there were loads of kids and they were really enjoying it, and it was almost like there was something for everybody within the family, and I really appreciate that, because despite not being a parent myself, I think it's really important for those families that we're trying to encourage to come to these rallies that we do things like that, because otherwise you've got children, if we're being honest with ourselves, young children don't want to be dragged around car shows for hours and hours. If there's kids entertainment, it gives them something else. So bravo to the club for doing it, because I thought that was a really great addition.
Blimey, I spotted this convertible across the field and I made an instant beeline for it, because you normally see a car and you think that's not been roughed about with, it doesn't look overly restored, and it looks wonderfully original. And my spidey senses were correct, because as soon as I met Gail and she started telling me her story, I thought I have to get her on camera and get her to share it. So Gail, tell me the story of how you ended up with this car and what this car had done before it got to you.
Well, we're the second owners of the car. We got it from a friend in the village who had got it from the original owner. It'd been stored in an outhouse somewhere from about 1984. He kept lots of different cars, and our friend in the village is a bit of a car enthusiast. It didn't have any of the front wings on, and we saw it going by on a trail, and I said to my husband, "Oh look, there's a sage green Morris Minor convertible. That's one of my dream cars." And unfortunately, our friend had a heart attack and decided that the task of restoring it was just too much. And because he knew that we were into cars, my son's got a Morris Minor. He offered it to us, so we took it on. We've put the wings on, we've resprayed it, but that's about it. So from 1984, it's done whatever mileage we've done every year to come to the national rally and run around locally. So yeah, we're really pleased with her. I've repaired the hood, I've sewn it up, but it's the original hood. All the interior's original. We had some little road sign stickers that must have gone in when it was new, and then there's the garage mark from when it was sold inside. So yeah, we've had lots of fun with her. We love her.
That's brilliant. Now, you've had her a little while. Have you got any other plans for this year?
No, if we have some good weather, we'll try and get out locally and do some trips, which is what we tend to mainly use her in the summer. Don't want to wear her out. She's a 1957 model, so she's an old lady. We try and make the Morris Minor rallies every year, but some of the hills are a bit, she struggles a bit, bless her. But no, we haven't got any other major plans for her. We do keep talking about going on the French trips, but it'd take us so long to get down to Dover, and we haven't quite been brave enough to do that with her yet.
So if it gives you any confidence, we did a video on this. We've done a few videos on Miners on Tour. Yeah. We've taken cars that are older than yours over to France, and I promise you it's really good. So do you think maybe we could twist your arm for next year?
Well, we'll see. I don't like to commit too far into the future, so yeah, we'll see.
Brilliant. And a lot of people watching these videos ask the question, what should I look for? Or, I'm scared about buying my first classic. What advice would you give somebody like that?
Well, to be fair, they are very easy. Parts are very readily available. They're very easy to work on. And I'm not a mechanic. My first car was a Trafalgar Blue Morris Minor for two-door saloon, and so I've always loved them, and that's how I got my son involved in classic cars. And parts are relatively cheap. It's easy to maintain. You can get into the engine. You can do it all yourself. You just need to look at, it's basically having an understanding about how much work you want to take on. This one wasn't in too bad condition, really. We didn't have to do new face plates and things like that. A lot of stuff our friend had already done. So really it depends what skills you've got and, They can be a money pit if you take on a really rough one, but if you're prepared to do that, you'll have lots of fun afterwards.
That's some brilliant advice. Enjoy the rally. Thank you so much for coming all the way from East Yorkshire, because it's not a 2-minute drive.
No, it isn't.
And safe travels home.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So anyway, the other thing that I want to say is that I know that lots of you watching will have Morris Minors, and I talk to so many people in Morris Minors that aren't a member of the club, and I was thinking, what are you doing? You should join, because there is so much benefit to joining the club. You get discounts, especially on things like insurance, you get help, you get a community, and most importantly, in a world where we're so isolated now, you get friends as well. And that for me is the biggest value that I got from my membership with the Morris Minor Owner Club. I mean, I did need a bit of help with the car, but also it did also get me a load of friends and a social life and some confidence. So I would say if you are a little bit short like I was, definitely do it. Now, anyway, the question that I'm going to be asked and I'm going to answer now is, can you come to these events if you aren't a club member? And the answer is yes. Now, the other thing that I want to talk to you about is Branch Avenue. Now, we were talking earlier, weren't we, about the branches? And I said, if you join the club, you need to join your branch, but I'm going to talk to you about that later on. So essentially, you are a Morris Minor owner. Now, there are loads of us all over the UK. I personally, sitting here now, can think of a good 10 owners that live within a 10-mile radius of me, maybe more actually. It's a bit mad in West Yorkshire, there's loads of us, and quite frequently around the country you'll find there are other hot spots. So Birmingham and Coventry, there seem to be loads. Bristol area, there seems to be loads. Cheshire, they've got Cheshire Moggies, that seems to be really popular as well. Down in Sussex, they've got their clubs, and they've got West Sussex and they've got East Sussex. I mean, there's a lot of Morris Minors down there for them to be able to split it off. You've got the Scottish Morris Minor Owner Club, which is covers a little bit more of a wide range, because obviously the Scottish population is a little bit more widespread than, say, somewhere like London. Anyway, coming back to the point of this, I always say to people, join your local branch. So my local branch is the West Yorkshire branch, and they are a fabulous bunch of people. In fact, this is a really great time for me to say thank you to them, because Simon, who is in our branch, actually took home all the ridiculous stuff that I purchased, because how on earth was I going to get a giant 1970s tent in my car, all my camping gear, the ridiculous amount of clothes that I brought with me, the 70,000 pairs of shoes that I didn't wear? And Simon said, don't worry about it, put it in my motorhome. So thank you very much, Simon, because he took home my interior, he took home my gearbox, he took home my carpet, and then he hand delivered it to work 2 days later. I mean, that is kind of the spirit of what you get from your branches. And as well, it's so nice, because if you face a problem, especially as a new owner, one of the great things that will happen is your local branch will help you out. I don't think I've ever met a branch that are unfriendly, that won't step in and help people out. And that's one of the nicest things. Also, by the way, if you're wondering why there's all these police cars, you've got the police car group as well that we're all exhibiting. And these are all ex-police cars that were used back in the day that have been saved and that are now being looked after by Morris Minor custodians. And in fact, Emily at the Gaydon Museum has just done a fabulous piece of work around documenting them all. And we're going to be covering that in a video in probably about 2 weeks' time, where we go and visit the archives. You're going to be Morris Minored out in a few weeks. There's a lot of content coming up, but I make no apologies for it, because honestly and truly, these cars are absolutely brilliant, and I don't think we can ask for anything more. Now, coming back to the branches, I'm trying to think what else I can tell you. Most branches do have a small nominal fee to charge, and that is to cover things like all the paperwork and for organising bits and pieces, and also it just helps cover any running costs that the branch may have. And so realistically, it's a small amount and it helps keep things alive locally. I don't mind paying, and a lot of other people don't too. Now, you'll notice Mad Mog in the background there. I should probably say a big thank you to Mad Mog as well, because when we were really young,
and we didn't know anybody, and we were just knocking around, and a lot of us hadn't really assimilated into our local branches. Mad Mog and particularly Paul Temple made us feel so welcome and included within the Morris Minor Owner Club, because that's the thing, is that you've always got your club there, but actually it's these branches that take ownership to the next level. So you might think that I'm waxing lyrical about them, and I am, because some of the branches have closed over the years through lack of use, or being in quite a sparse area. And actually nowadays we're seeing a bit of a renaissance, because there are new branches opening up. I mean, the Coventry and Warwickshire branch has opened within the last 10 years, as has Cheshire Moggies, as have others. So we saw a bit of a lull, but now it's picking back up again, and it is so good. I mean, there's so many people that I speak to locally. The Gloucestershire branch, by the way, are another really lovely bunch of people. In particular, I really like Jenny. I've always found her very personable, absolutely love her daughter Rosie, had a really great time with them on Miners on Tour. The only thing is I would have liked to have shown you that diorama in the back of Jenny's car, but she was away enjoying herself. Now, you also have concours at these shows. Now, of course, as somebody who drives their car every day and always seems to have some sort of piece of rubbish lurking around in the car, concours would never be a category that I would enter into. However, if you have an absolutely stunning car that you've restored to within an inch of its life, or perhaps a really original car that you've dug out from somewhere, you've dusted down, and it's actually quite shiny and together, you can enter it into this. Now, the winner of this was that maroon coloured car that you will have seen, and it did really, really well. Oh my goodness. I think it was a winner back in the 90s, and it's come back on the scene, and it had won stuff again. But these cars that we're looking at now look decidedly different, and that's because these are the modified cars. Now, for me, I always find this section especially exciting, because these are the people, these are the brains, the engineers, the craftsmen that take these cars and take them one step further. And quite often what I love about the cars that they do here is that they'll take a car that was maybe really down a heel, and then they'll turn it into something incredible. Now, I know that there are lots of people out there that will say to me, Steph, it should be exactly as Alec Issigonis intended. But actually, I'm going to throw something on its head. I think he would have been really interested to see all of this, because if you look at his very early life, where he takes the Austin 7 and he modifies it and he races it and he does different things with it, do you not think that he would maybe look at cars like this and think, wow, that is actually really cool? I mean, he used to take cars and do all sorts with them and modify them and really push them to their maximum capability. So actually, when people get a bit funny about stuff like this, I say, well, actually, maybe if we think about it logically, it's probably in the spirit of Alec Issigonis to be taking these cars and modifying them. Now, lots to see, lots to keep looking at. So I'm going to show you some of the other bits that are on display. But yes, if you are coming, make sure you have a look at the modified cars. Lots to be inspired by.
Now look, I know we said it's a Morris Minor event, but there are other cars here as well, and this car has an incredible story that I had to get captured on film. So this is Andy with his 1926 Morris Oxford. Now Andy, you're not one of these people that only travels down to the local show. Tell me your story.
Well, I've had this car 25 years now, and we just love to use it all the time. Although I love going to shows, what I really prefer is the drive to and from the shows. So I always try and find something that's about an hour or two's drive away from home. But it's a car that's used a lot. We take it on holiday all around. We've toured all around the UK in it, and taken it across to France as well, and done trips around there.
Now the trip around France wasn't just a trip around France, was it?
No, we found the diaries from my wife's grandfather that he wrote to his fiancée at the time of the First World War. And so we took the car across to Calais, drove down to Boulogne, and we stayed where he camped the night in Boulogne. And then we followed the route that he had marched along the Somme. And every village or town that he'd made an entry in his diary, we stopped and we read that entry. And it was very poignant. brilliant, and it was very moving. And then we managed to find where my grandfather was as well in the First World War, so we ended up there. Then we carried on up to Ypres and went all round there to, again, places where my wife's grandfather was. And then when we got back home, we were finding more of his documents, and we found in 1924 he bought a bullnose Morris, very similar to this. So yeah, it was a really good trip. Fortunately, it wasn't a sad trip because both our grandparents survived the war, so that was really good.
It is such a thing to go over to France. If you ever get the chance to do it, you should, because you go over and you realise the sheer hell that people lived through so that we could live in peace, and it is a very humbling experience. And you look at these things that people live through and you think, how on earth did anyone get through it and live even a vaguely normal life afterwards? It is a big thing.
Yeah, it really is, yeah. And it's so sad when you do drive along, especially around the Somme, and you just passing graveyard after graveyard after graveyard. But I say, fortunately, in our case, we didn't have to stop and find a grave. We were able just to, just pay our respects to those that sacrifice their lives for us. But it's a great experience to drive across there.
Well, well done for doing it, because this car is from 1926, which our filming year, 2025, makes it nearly 100 years old. What is it like driving a car nearly 100 years old?
It's okay. I mean, to me, it's quite normal. I've had her 25 years now, and I've gone through 3 sets of tyres and 2 engines, and I use it a lot. I'm a mechanic by trade, working on pre-20s cars as well. So for me, it's actually quite a normal thing. But there's no reason to be afraid of them, I think. I was chatting to someone online recently who said they've just acquired one and they've been able to sort of drive it 10 miles. And I'm sort of saying, well, if you've driven it 10 miles and it hasn't had any problems, there probably isn't any reason why it won't do 20, 30, 40, 50 miles and, build up the confidence and get used to them.
It's not often I say this, but I find you really inspiring, because I think that there are so many people out there that are so fearful to take something on of this age in the first place, let alone going further than, say, their local show or the next town. What advice would you give to someone who's considering, this falls into vintage, doesn't it? Well, vintage pre-war. What advice would you give to somebody considering a car of this era?
Get to know the car, find out what are the things that are likely to cause you a problem. On these cars, half shafts braking are a problem, magnetos are a problem. So, make sure you're confident in changing a magneto, have a good spare magneto, have a spare half shaft, learn how to change it, and just keep a few spares with you, even a head gasket. You can change a head gasket on this car in half an hour and be back on the road again. So, just get yourself confident with the car, and talk to people who know how to look after these cars and learn how to fix it yourself, really, I think.
Andy, that's some solid advice. Thank you so much. Thank you for bringing it to the rally, and hopefully we'll catch up with you again soon.
Thanks, Steph. It's been a privilege.
Now, as I say, it's not just a car show. There was also a road run as well, which, hands up, I was horribly late for, but I don't think I've ever been on time for anything in my entire adult life. Now, the sad thing was that we got stuck in loads of traffic, so we gave up on this. However, Richard carried on. Now, Richard didn't want to take his car out of the showing space, so I said, go and take the convertible. So you'll see here Richard is driving the convertible with John, our friend from New York, and as you can see here, we gave John a good old tour of lovely sunny England. Seems to always be sunny when he comes over at the moment, so we're giving him quite an uncharacteristic feel. But yes, the run was organised by a local branch who put it all together and created a fabulous day out for everybody. So if you didn't fancy sitting on the rally field, you could go out and survey the local area, and they took them to some lovely places, and I hope they do it again next year. Now, when we got back, we found out there was a driving challenge featuring the last saloon. So this saloon here that you see driving around here is the last Morris Minor saloon that was ever made. The club had it restored and now they use it for stuff. And I think that's great, because how boring would it be if it just sat in a museum for the rest of its life and never did anything? And instead it's doing a driving challenge where you've got to drive around with a bowl of water with some ducks in on the bonnet and try and keep it all in. Now, the one one thing that I will say is that me and all my friends are absolute lunatics, and we are always firmly of the belief that we can achieve things that we probably can't achieve. And this was definitely one of them. And we thought that we were definitely going to ace it. Now, I have sped this up, but actually we did do quite well on our times. We didn't place first, second or third, but we had a bit of a laugh doing it, and we got to drive the last saloon. Hands up, this is the best thing we have ever done on a Morris Minor National Rally. If you're wondering what on earth is going on here and why I'm using my phone and everybody else is using their phone, it's because this is something really special. So this is the smallest motorway in Britain, technically, although it kind of isn't a motorway as well. It's a fake motorway. It's called the M96. Now, it's at the Moreton in Marsh fire training grounds. And the idea is that firemen that are going out into the world and saving people in accidents on motorways actually have somewhere to practice, because otherwise they're just thrown into the situation and expected to cope. And so what they let us do, and I thought this was really cool, is they let us line up all the Morris Minors for a picture on the site and just drive down it and have a look at it. And for me, this is definitely one of the best activities that we've ever done, and I just really loved it. Now, you might be wondering what a motorway full of Morris Minors looks like. Well, here you go. Thank you so much to Andy, who let me stand on his bonnet to get this picture. Long story, he was stood on his bonnet too, but isn't it impressive? Now, no National Rally is complete without a party in the evening. Oh, and a bit of fancy dress as well. I'm in a 70s jumpsuit because our band this year was ABBA, and you know what? They were absolutely brilliant. Had the whole dance floor going, and again, just another brilliant addition to such a wonderful event. Now, here's where I leave you all. It's the final hurrah. Now, usually you would have a piece of me face to camera. However, by the end of the weekend, I looked like a slice of bacon that had been left on the grill for too long. And I just thought, no, I'll just do a little voiceover. So I really hope you've enjoyed sharing the best weekend of my entire year with me. I love the Morris Minor National Rally. I love Morris Minors. I love the club. And it's given me a whole life that I never thought was going to be possible for me. Before I got a Morris Minor, I was so boring. I didn't really do that much. I was quite introverted, and it changed my life. So if you've watched this video and thought to yourself, I might get a Morris Minor too, take my advice, it'll be the best thing you've ever done. Well, until you're sitting on the hard shoulder. No, I'm joking. Anyway, go and get yourself a Morris Minor, join in with the fun, and until next time, take care and drive safely.